I found the letter 3 months after Mom died, tucked inside her old copy of Pride and Prejudice. The yellowed envelope fell into my lap while I was clearing out her bookshelf, my hands trembling as I recognized her familiar handwriting. For Alara, open only if something happens to me. My name is Alara, and I never expected to become the guardian of my family's darkest secrets at 17. Sweetheart, Celeste is making dinner. Come down and join us, Dad called from downstairs, his voice carrying that forced cheerfulness he'd adopted since Mom's passing. I stayed silent, unfolding the letter with shaking fingers. The paper felt delicate, like it might crumble under the weight of its own secrets. Mom's elegant handwriting filled the page. My dearest Alara, if you're reading this, my worst fears have come true. I need you to protect Finn. Watch him carefully. Things aren't what they seem, and I don't trust the people closest to us. There are questions about my illness that don't add up. The sound of laughter drifted up from the kitchen, Celeste's theatrical giggle mixing with my 6-year-old brother Finn's innocent chuckles. Dad had met her at a grief support group 3 months ago, and now she was practically living with us. The perfect grieving widow swooping in to heal our broken family. Alara. Dad called again, more insistent this time. Don't be difficult. I folded the letter and tucked it into my pocket, my mind racing. Mom had always been methodical, rational, not the type for paranoid conspiracies. If she'd written this, she must have had reasons. Downstairs, Celeste was setting the table, her perfectly manicured hands arranging the plates with practiced precision. She looked up as I entered, flashing that megawatt smile that never quite reached her eyes. There's my favorite stepdaughter-to-be, she chirped, reaching to hug me. I stepped back, watching hurt flicker across her face. I'm your only stepdaughter-to-be, I replied flatly. Dad shot me a warning look. Alara, please. Finn sat at the table, spaghetti sauce already smeared across his chin. Celeste made meatballs, Alara. They're better than Mom's. The room went silent. I watched Celeste's hand pause mid-reach for the salad bowl, her knuckles whitening slightly. Dad cleared his throat, looking anywhere but at me. Nobody's meatballs were better than Mom's, I said quietly, taking my seat. The letter felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket. Celeste recovered quickly, serving Dad an extra-large portion. Grant, honey, did you tell the kids about our news? My stomach dropped. Dad suddenly became very interested in his napkin. We're thinking of moving in together, he finally said. Officially. It's only been 3 months, I whispered, my voice barely audible. When you know, you know, Celeste responded, reaching for Dad's hand across the table. And we want to be a proper family. I watched her other hand rest briefly on Finn's shoulder, perfectly polished nails gleaming under the dining room lights. Mom's words echoed in my head. Things aren't what they seem. I need to use the bathroom, I mumbled, pushing away from the table. Instead of heading upstairs, I slipped into Mom's old study, the one room Celeste hadn't managed to reorganize yet. Opening Mom's laptop, I typed in her password, my birthday, like always. Her browser history was mostly cleared, but one folder caught my eye, Celeste Morgan Research. My hands froze over the keyboard as footsteps approached the study. Alara? Celeste's voice carried through the door. What are you doing in there, sweetie? I quickly closed the laptop, my heart pounding. Whatever Mom had discovered about Celeste, whatever had made her write that letter, I was going to find out. For Mom. For Finn. For all of us. Coming, I called back, my voice steadier than I felt. Just needed a moment with Mom's things. The doorknob started to turn. The moving boxes arrived before I could even process what was happening. Within a week, Celeste had transformed our home into something unrecognizable. I stood in the hallway, watching her direct the movers with military precision, each command delivered with that sugar-sweet smile. Darling, could you help me decide where to put this? She held up Mom's antique mirror, the one that had hung in our entryway for as long as I could remember. I'm thinking it might work better in the guest room. Or maybe we should just store it. My fingers curled into fists. It stays where it is. Of course, sweetie. I just thought. She trailed off as Dad appeared behind her, carrying a box labeled family photos. Where do you want these, honey? He asked Celeste, not me. I watched them disappear into the living room, my stomach churning. Following them, I found Celeste already removing our family photos from the walls, replacing them with her abstract art pieces. Mom's smiling face disappeared into the box, frame by frame. What are you doing? My voice cracked. Just freshening things up, Celeste chirped. Change is healthy, right, Grant? Dad nodded absently, already lost in whatever spell she'd cast over him. It'll be good for us, Alara. A fresh start. I retreated to Mom's study, the only room still untouched by Celeste's improvements. Opening Mom's laptop again, I clicked on the research folder I'd discovered earlier. Most files were encrypted, but one document caught my eye. Morgan family history. Looking for something? I slammed the laptop shut. Celeste stood in the doorway, her smile fixed but her eyes sharp. Just some old school assignments. I lied. You know, I've been meaning to talk to you about this room. She glided in, running her finger along Mom's desk. I was thinking of turning it into a playroom for Finn. He needs a space to be creative. No. The word came out like a whip crack. Alara? Dad appeared behind Celeste. What's going on? She wants to erase Mom, I blurted. First the photos, now her study. That's not fair, Celeste interjected, tears welling up perfectly in her eyes. I'm just trying to help this family heal. Dad's face hardened. Alara apologized to Celeste. Did you know? I asked instead, my heart pounding. Did you know she knew Mom before? The color drained from Celeste's face for just a second before she recovered. What are you talking about? I pulled out Mom's letter with trembling hands. Mom wrote, "Oh, sweetie." Celeste's voice dripped with concern. Grant, remember what Dr. Phillips said about Annabelle's paranoia in those final months? The medication affected her mind. What? I looked at Dad, who wouldn't meet my eyes. We didn't want to tell you, he said quietly. The doctors said the treatments made her confused sometimes. She had delusions. No. I backed away from them both. Mom wasn't confused. She knew something. That's enough. Dad's voice rose. I won't let you use your mother's illness to hurt Celeste. She's trying to be part of this family. But she's not family, I shouted. And she never will be. Finn's small voice came from the hallway. Why is everyone yelling? Celeste immediately went to him, gathering him in her arms. It's nothing, sweetheart. Your sister's just having a hard time today. Why don't we go make cookies? As they left, I caught Celeste's glance over her shoulder, a look that chilled me to my core. There was nothing sweet about it now. Dad sighed heavily. I need you to try harder, Alara. For all our sakes. Alone in Mom's study, I opened the laptop again. The Morgan family history file was gone, completely erased. But as I stared at the screen, a notification popped up from Mom's old email account, an automated message she'd scheduled months ago. My dearest Alara, if you're reading this, check the loose floorboard under my desk. There's more you need to know about Celeste Morgan. Be careful who you trust. Love, Mom. I glanced at the door, hearing Finn's laughter mix with Celeste's voice downstairs. My hand reached for the floorboard, knowing whatever I found would change everything. The newspaper clipping fell from the loose floorboard like a death sentence. Local woman dies after short illness, survived by husband Robert Morgan. The photo showed Celeste, younger but unmistakable, standing beside a grave. The date, 3 years ago. I barely made it to the bathroom before throwing up. Hey, you okay in there? The voice belonged to Jonah Chen, our next-door neighbor, who'd been mowing his lawn when I rushed outside for air. He stood at the bottom of his porch steps, concern etched on his face. I'm fine, I managed, wiping my mouth. Just found something disturbing. Jonah's expression shifted. About Celeste? My head snapped up. What do you know about her? He glanced around before lowering his voice. I used to live next door to her and Robert, before he died. The world tilted slightly. Robert Morgan? Yeah. Jonah's face darkened. Look, I should have said something when your dad started seeing her, but he ran a hand through his hair. I convinced myself I was imagining things back then. What things? A car door slammed in my driveway. Celeste emerged, carrying grocery bags. She waved at us with that perfect smile. "Not here," Jonah muttered. "Meet me at Riverside Park tonight. 8 o'clock." I spent the afternoon watching Celeste prepare dinner, her movements precise and practiced. She'd convinced Dad to let Finn help, perching him on a stool beside her. "Now, sweetie, watch how I measure the ingredients," she cooed, adding something to the sauce that didn't look like any spice I recognized. "Can I taste it?" Finn reached for the spoon. "No." I knocked it from his hand before I could stop myself. The kitchen went silent. Celeste's smile never wavered, but her eyes turned to ice. "Alara, that was very dangerous. The spoon could have hurt him." "Sorry," I mumbled, helping Finn down. "Hey, buddy, why don't we go play video games instead?" "But I want to help Celeste cook." "Listen to your sister," Celeste said softly, her tone making my skin crawl. "We wouldn't want any accidents." At 8, I slipped out to meet Jonah. He was already waiting, pacing beneath the streetlight. "Robert got sick suddenly," he said without preamble. "Just like your mom. Started with stomach problems, then organ failure. Doctors called it a rare autoimmune response." My mouth went dry. Mom had the same diagnosis. Celeste was the perfect grieving widow. Jonah's voice cracked. I watched her take care of him, cook every meal, measure all his medications. I should have realized. Realized what? Robert wasn't her first husband. He pulled out his phone, showing me an old social media post. "James Peterson died 5 years ago. Similar symptoms." My hands shook as I scrolled through the photos. Celeste, slightly younger, standing beside another grave. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I saw her at the pharmacy yesterday, picking up prescriptions. One was for your dad." Ice flooded my veins. Dad had mentioned stomach problems last week. A text lit up my phone. "Where are you?" "Dad's not feeling well. Celeste is making him soup." "Finn, I have to go." I started running before the words were fully out. Home was quiet when I burst in. Too quiet. I found Finn in the living room, watching TV alone. "Where's Dad?" "Upstairs." Celeste said not to disturb them. I took the stairs 2 at a time, nearly colliding with Celeste outside Dad's room. She held an empty bowl. "Oh, Alara. Perfect timing. Your father's resting now, but he really should see a doctor tomorrow." Such a strange reaction to dinner. Over her shoulder, I could see Dad sleeping fitfully, his face pale and drawn. "What did you give him?" "Just soup, darling." Her smile turned razor sharp. "The same recipe I used for your mother when she first got sick. She loved it so much, she asked for my secret ingredient." My phone buzzed, a text from Jonah. "Don't let her near the food. I'm calling the police." Celeste's eyes flicked to my phone. "You know, Alara, curiosity can be dangerous. Just ask your mother." She was quite curious, too. Behind her, Dad started to cough. The emergency room lights buzzed overhead as I watched Dad get his stomach pumped. Celeste had disappeared the moment the ambulance arrived, claiming she needed to stay home with Finn. Her last words to me still echoed. "Such a shame about dinner. But who would believe you?" She was right. I had no proof. "Miss Thompson?" A detective stood in the doorway, notebook in hand. "Can we talk about what happened tonight?" I followed her to a quiet corner, my hand shaking. "It was the soup. She's been." "Your father's toxicology report came back clean," she interrupted. "No unusual substances. Just a bad case of food poisoning." "That's impossible. Check again. We also found these in your room." She held up a plastic bag containing Mom's research papers. "Your father's girlfriend mentioned you've been struggling, making accusations." My throat closed up. Celeste had been in my room. "She's very worried about you," the detective continued. "Says you've been having episodes, like your mother did before." "Don't." I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. "Don't you dare." A nurse approached with discharge papers. "Your father's stable, but he's requesting to speak with you alone." Dad looked small in the hospital bed, his face gray.
"Sit down, Alara."
"Dad, please, you have to listen."
"No."
His voice was firm. "You listen." Celeste showed me everything. The disturbing searches on your computer, the stalker-like photos you've been taking of her, the conspiracy theories about Mom's death. Those weren't mine. She planted them. Enough. He grabbed my hand. You're going to stay with Grandmother Iris for a while. Just until you get help. The world tilted sideways. You're sending me away? It's for the best. Celeste thinks. Celeste thinks. I yanked my hand back. Mom tried to warn me about her. She knew. Your mother was sick. Dad's voice cracked. The medication made her paranoid, just like it's making you paranoid now. The doctors warned us it might be genetic. A text lit up my phone. Got the proof you need. Meet me ASAP. Jonah. I have to go, I whispered. Alara, wait. But I was already running. I found Jonah in the hospital parking lot, holding a USB drive. Security footage from the pharmacy, he said. Shows Celeste picking up prescriptions under different names. And this, he pulled out a document. Death certificate for her first husband. Cause of death changed 3 times. It's not enough, I said. She's convinced everyone I'm crazy. Just like Mom. Jonah's face darkened. There's more. I found records of a life insurance policy she took out on your dad. Same company she used for her previous husbands.
My phone buzzed again.
Celeste. Finn's asking for you.
Such a sweet boy.
So trusting. Cold fear gripped my chest. I have to get home. Wait. Jonah grabbed my arm. You can't go alone. Let me call the police. They won't believe us. Not without absolute proof. I showed him Celeste's text. I can't risk Finn. Then we'll get proof. He pulled out his phone. My cousin works in the medical examiner's office. If we can get your mom's tissue samples tested again. Another text from Celeste. By the way, found something interesting in your grandmother's medical records. Did you know heart problems run in her family? Would be tragic if something happened while you're staying with her. She's always one step ahead, I whispered, playing everyone against each other. Jonah squeezed my shoulder. Then we'll get ahead of her. But first, we need to get Finn somewhere safe. I stared at the hospital entrance, where Dad was being wheeled out. Celeste would be here any minute to pick him up, playing the devoted girlfriend. No, I said finally. First, we make her think she's won. Let her believe I'm falling apart, just like Mom. That's dangerous. So is underestimating her. I straightened my shoulders. Mom tried to fight her alone and lost. I won't make the same mistake. Jonah nodded slowly. What's the plan? We give her exactly what she wants, a crazy stepdaughter who needs to be sent away. And then, I gripped the USB drive. We show her what it feels like to lose everything she loves. Grandmother Iris's house smelled like lavender and old books, exactly how Mom used to smell. I'd been here 3 days, playing the part of the troubled teenager while Jonah dug deeper into Celeste's past. Every night, I checked my phone for updates about Finn. Your father called again, Grandmother said, setting down her teacup. He's worried about you. Is he? I stared out the window. Or is Celeste worried about what I might find here? Grandmother's expression shifted. She reached into her cardigan pocket and pulled out a worn envelope. I've been waiting for the right moment to show you this. Your mother left it with me, a week before she died. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a key and a note. Safety Deposit Box 247, First National Bank. Don't trust anyone. She knew, Grandmother whispered, about Celeste. About everything. A text buzzed. Found something big.
Meet now. Jonah.
I have to. Go. Grandmother squeezed my hand. But Alara? Be careful. Celeste visited me yesterday, asking about your mother's old medical records. My blood ran cold. What did you tell her? That they were destroyed in the basement flood last year. Her eyes glinted. She didn't need to know they're actually in that safety deposit box. I found Jonah at our usual spot behind the library. His face was ashen. Celeste's real name is Sarah Conway, he said, handing me a stack of papers. She's changed identities 3 times. Each time after a husband died. How did you? My cousin didn't just find the medical records. She found police reports. 2 different detectives tried to investigate her, but both cases were dropped when the detectives suddenly transferred or retired. My phone lit up with a text from Dad. Finn's fever won't break. Celeste is taking him to the hospital. No, I breathed. No, no, no. What is it? This is how it started with Mom. A fever that wouldn't break then. Another text from Celeste this time. Should have stayed away, little girl. Some lessons need to be taught the hard way. I'm calling the police. Jonah reached for his phone. Wait. I pulled out Mom's key. We need proof first. Real proof. The bank was closing when we arrived. The safety deposit box contained a single USB drive and a handwritten note. Follow the money. Love, Mom. Jonah plugged the drive into his laptop. Files appeared, bank statements, insurance policies, medical records. Mom had traced a pattern across decades. Large insurance policies, mysterious illnesses, dead husbands. Look at this. Jonah pointed to a transaction record. Celeste, Sarah, whatever her name is, she's been transferring money to someone at the hospital. A Dr. Phillips. The same doctor who'd convinced Dad that Mom was paranoid. My phone buzzed again. Dad. At Memorial Hospital. Finn's getting worse. Where are you? We have to show this to the police, Jonah insisted. They won't move fast enough. I grabbed my keys. Finn doesn't have time. Alara, wait. You can't confront her alone. She's dangerous. So am I. I pulled out Mom's final letter. She thought she could do this alone, and it got her killed. But I'm not alone. I have proof. I have you. And I have nothing left to lose. Except Finn. Exactly. I started the car. Call Detective Martinez. Tell her to meet me at Memorial Hospital. And Jonah? If anything happens to me, make sure everyone knows the truth about Celeste Morgan. As I drove, another text came through. Celeste again. You know, your mother made the same mistake, thinking she could protect everyone. Want to know her last words? I gripped the steering wheel harder, Mom's voice echoing in my memory. Don't trust anyone. But she was wrong about one thing. Sometimes, to fight a monster, you need to trust someone. And sometimes, to save your family, you have to risk everything. The hospital loomed ahead, its windows glowing in the dusk like warning lights. The hospital corridor stretched before me like a nightmare. Through the window of Finn's room, I could see Celeste perched beside his bed, stroking his hair while Dad paced. My brother's small form lay still, connected to beeping machines. Miss Thompson? Dr. Phillips appeared beside me, his face a mask of concern. I understand you've been struggling lately. Where are Finn's test results? I demanded. Your father gave MS. Morgan Medical Authority while you were away. Patient confidentiality. Like the confidentiality you maintained when she paid you to falsify Mom's records? His expression flickered. Before he could respond, Celeste emerged from Finn's room. Alara, sweetheart. Her voice dripped honey. You shouldn't be here. You're not well. I pulled out my phone, displaying the evidence. Sarah Conway. That's your real name, isn't it? How many husbands did you poison before my mother caught on? Security. Dr. Phillips reached for his pager. Go ahead, I said.
Call them.
Detective Martinez is already on her way with a warrant for both of you. Celeste's mask cracked, just for a moment. Then she smiled. Grant, could you come out here? Dad appeared, looking exhausted. Alara, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be at grandmother's.
Show him, I told Celeste.
Show him who you really are. She's having another episode, Celeste whispered, clutching Dad's arm. Just like Annabelle did. Dr. Phillips, perhaps we should discuss residential treatment.
No.
I thrust Mom's files at Dad. Look at the evidence. The insurance policies, the bank transfers, the death certificates. She killed Mom, and now she's killing Finn. That's enough. Dad's voice cracked like a whip. Security, please escort my daughter out. Dad, please. MS. Morgan has been administering Finn's medication personally, Dr. Phillips added smoothly. She's been absolutely vigilant. The monitors in Finn's room suddenly erupted in alarms. Nurses rushed past us. What did you give him? I lunged at Celeste, but security grabbed me. "What did you do to my brother?" "Oh, Elara." Celeste's eyes gleamed with triumph. "You really are just like your mother. So desperate to be the hero, you can't see what's right in front of you." She pulled out her phone, showing me a text thread from my number, threatening her, planning to harm Finn. Messages I'd never sent. "No one will believe you now," she whispered. "They'll say you had a psychotic break, just like your mother. Tried to hurt your own brother out of jealousy." The security guard started dragging me away. Through the chaos, I caught a glimpse of Finn's room. Nurses surrounding his bed, Dad holding his hand, Celeste watching me with that perfect, poisonous smile. "Your mother's last words?" she called after me. "She begged me to spare you. I should have listened. Let go of me." I fought against the guards.
Dad.
"The evidence is on my phone. Just look at it." But Celeste was already holding my phone. Must have grabbed it in the scuffle. Poor thing. Imagining things again. As they pulled me toward the elevator, I saw Detective Martinez step out. Too late, too late. Celeste was already rushing back to Finn's room, playing the devoted caregiver. Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. "Wait," I pleaded with the detective. "The proof, it's all on my phone. The phone with all those threatening messages you sent MS. Morgan." She shook her head. "Your father's given permission for a psychiatric hold." The elevator doors closed on my world collapsing. Mom's voice echoed in my head. "Don't trust anyone." But I had trusted that the truth would be enough, that Dad would finally see, that good would triumph over evil. I was wrong. Somewhere above me, my little brother was fighting for his life. My father was blind to the viper in our midst. And all of Mom's careful planning, all her evidence, had just played right into Celeste's hands. The security guards led me toward the psychiatric ward, where Dr. Phillips was already waiting with admission papers. "Don't worry," he said, uncapping his pen. "We'll take good care of you, just like we did with your mother." The psychiatric ward's white walls closed in around me, but I wasn't alone. Jonah had come through. His cousin from the medical examiner's office was recording everything happening in Finn's room.
All I needed was time.
"These sedatives will help you rest," Dr. Phillips said, approaching with a syringe. "Before you do that," I kept my voice steady. "You might want to check your phone." Right on cue, his phone buzzed. Then again. And again. "What?" "Proof of every payment Celeste made to you, sent to every doctor in this hospital." I smiled, channeling Celeste's own poisonous sweetness. "Oh, and the medical board. And the police." The syringe wavered. "Nurse." Dr. Phillips called, but no one came. Instead, Detective Martinez appeared in the doorway. "Dr. Phillips," she said, "we need to discuss those irregularities in Annabelle Thompson's death certificate." A commotion erupted from upstairs, shouting, running feet. My heart stopped. "Finn," I whispered. I bolted past them, racing toward my brother's room. Inside, nurses surrounded his bed while Dad grappled with Celeste, a syringe falling from her hand. "I saw her on the camera," Jonah's cousin was saying. "She was adding something to his four." "He was getting better," Celeste snarled, her mask finally shattering. "He was ruining everything. Like my mother ruined everything?" I stepped into the room. "When she figured out what you were doing?" Celeste's eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw the truth. Not a monster, but a broken woman desperate for control. "Your mother," she spat, "wouldn't let things be perfect. Just like you." "Perfect." Dad's voice cracked. "You killed my wife. You tried to kill my son." "I made things better," Celeste screamed. "I gave you a family again. I could have given you everything if she'd just stayed quiet, if she'd just taken the pills." I pulled out Mom's final note. The ones you convinced everyone were for her paranoia? The ones that slowly poisoned her. Detective Martinez stepped forward with handcuffs. "Sarah Conway, you're under arrest." "No." Celeste lunged for Finn's bed, but I was faster. We crashed together, her nails raking my face as we fell. "You're just like her," Celeste hissed. "Always thinking you know best, always trying to save everyone." "You're right." I grabbed her wrists. "I am like her." And that's why you lost. The security guards pulled her away, her screams echoing down the hall. Dad stood frozen, staring at Mom's medical records scattered across the floor. "Elara," he whispered. "I didn't. I should have." "His vitals are stabilizing," a nurse called out. "Whatever she was giving him, it's wearing off." I rushed to Finn's side, taking his small hand. His eyes fluttered open. "Lara," he mumbled. "I had a bad dream." "It's over now," I promised, feeling Dad's hand on my shoulder. "Everything's going to be okay." Later, as police collected evidence and doctors reversed the damage Celeste had done, I found a crumpled note in her discarded jacket. "Dearest Elara, you were right about everything, just like your mother was. I thought I could create perfect families, fix what was broken in my own life. But all I did was destroy. Your mother saw through me, tried to stop me. She died protecting you. I hope someday you'll understand. We're not so different. We both just wanted to be loved." "Celeste." Dad appeared beside me. "What's that?" "The truth," I said, letting the note fall. But not the whole truth. Mom's love wasn't about control or perfection. It was about protection, about fighting for what matters. He pulled me into a hug, his tears falling into my hair. Through the window, I could see Detective Martinez leading Celeste and Dr. Phillips away in handcuffs. "I'm so sorry," Dad whispered. "I should have believed you. Mom knew you would, eventually." I turned back to Finn's room, where he was finally sleeping peacefully. That's why she left us the evidence. She knew love would win in the end. Not perfect love, not controlled love, but real love, messy and fierce and worth fighting for. Just like family. 6 months after Celeste's arrest, I stood in Mom's study, surrounded by boxes. The room had remained untouched since that night, a time capsule of secrets and pain. "Found something," Dad said from the doorway, holding a leather-bound journal. It was hidden behind the bookshelf. I recognized Mom's handwriting immediately. The first entry was dated just after she met Celeste. "My dearest Elara, I'm writing this for you, because someday you'll face the same choice I'm facing now. The choice between revenge and protection, between justice and healing." "You don't have to read it now," Dad said softly. "I do." I sat at Mom's desk, running my fingers over her words. But not alone. Finn bounded in, clutching his latest artwork, our family drawn in crayon, Mom watching over us as an angel. He'd been seeing a therapist, working through the trauma in his own 6-year-old way. "Can I help sort?" he asked, climbing into my lap. "Actually," I smiled. "Mom left us a story to read." Dad pulled up chairs for both of them. Together, we read Mom's journal, discovering her journey, not just of uncovering Celeste's crimes, but of choosing how to fight back. I could expose her immediately, one entry read, but that would put my children at risk. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't in defeating your enemy, but in protecting what matters most. A knock at the door interrupted us. Detective Martinez stood there with a letter. "From Celeste," she said. "She's pleading guilty to everything." This came with her confession. The letter was short. "You were right about one thing. We were both our mother's daughters. But you chose a better path than either of us. Take care of them, Elara. You already know how." "Are you okay?" Dad asked as I folded the letter. "Yeah, I realized I meant it. Mom taught me that revenge isn't about destroying your enemy. It's about protecting what they tried to take from you." Grandmother Iris arrived later with dinner, just like she had every Sunday since the hospital. We gathered around the table, not perfect, not unbroken, but real. "I have news," Dad said quietly. "The house Mom always wanted in the mountains? It's for sale." I thought maybe a fresh start. With Mom's study intact, I added quickly. He smiled. "Of course. And her garden. Can I plant sunflowers?" Finn asked. Mom loved sunflowers. Speaking of which, Grandmother pulled out one final envelope. "Annabelle left this with instructions to give it to you when you were ready, Elara. I think that time is now." Inside was a college application to Mom's alma mater and a note. "Don't let protecting others stop you from following your dreams." The greatest gift you can give your family is becoming who you're meant to be. I already submitted it, I admitted. Got in last week. Dad's eyes welled up. She'd be so proud of you. Both of you. Later, as we packed up Mom's study, I found one last entry in her journal. My darling daughter, by now you've learned that love isn't about perfection. It's about choice. Every day, we choose who to trust, who to fight for, who to become. Celeste chose revenge. I chose protection. You, my brave girl, will choose your own path. But remember, the greatest revenge against those who try to destroy your family isn't in destroying them back. It's in growing stronger, loving deeper, living fuller than they ever thought possible. All my love, Mom. I closed the journal, looking around at my imperfect, unbreakable family. Through the window, the first sunflower was blooming in Mom's garden, reaching toward the light. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting better. Together.